Guys, it's Destiny, and today we're going to be discussing the idea of power creep in Honkai Star Rail, and if Dan Heng Imbibitor is introducing power creep, and if it's possibly problematic, or if he's an appropriate level of strength for the game currently. Before we begin, I'd love to know all your thoughts in the comments down below, as he has been out for a few days now to gauge his strength, and I want us as a community to share our thoughts. Without further ado though, let's get straight into it. Let's begin first with what power creep actually is. Power creep is commonly known as when, let's say, something releases, in this case a character, and this character makes other characters obsolete or simply just not as good, especially in content within the game. The definition, of course, can vary from person to person, but as a basis, I think this is a good way to describe it for this video. Some examples of power creep can be this hypothetical scenario of, let's say, we get a fire DPS character that typically does 20 to 50k damage when they're fully built, right supports, and everything. And later down the line, we get another fire DPS character that does triple to quadruple that amount of damage, and their kit is significantly better for team synergies, overall value, and so on. By triple to quadruple, it can easily be 200k damage or more, just for this extreme example. Let's also say the game's content gets progressively harder, and now the first fire DPS cannot clear the content, while the new fire DPS is able to clear it with ease, and there's no ways to improve that first DPS character's damage potential. This can definitely be an example of power creep. Now that we've gone over though an example of power creep, let's go over Dan Heng Imbibitor and whether or not he has introduced power creep within Honkai Star Rail. Dan Heng Imbibitor recently released in Honkai Star Rail, which a lot have been going over if he is the new best DPS in the game, and if he's like a Super Saiyan 3 in comparison to our other characters, which are only a normal Saiyan. On the case of his strength, he has become one of the most powerful DPS characters on par with one of our other strongest DPS characters, Seele. Numerous tests have been done, and yeah, he's definitely powerful to say the least. His AoE damaging potential is one of the highest within the game, and he's able to dish out insane amounts of damage. When it comes to tier lists, Dan Heng Imbibitor has easily become a character to be alongside Seele on levels of strength and kits. His enhanced basic attacks are quite powerful, and he's also a character who can work with free-to-play light cones, such as On the Fall of an Aeon, so even on a pull value standpoint, he's an incredible character to consider when it comes to deciding which character to pull for your main DPS on your teams. Additionally, my friends and I, Mr. Poke, Io, and Rihu recently discussed Dan Heng Imbibitor on Rihu's podcast, where we went in depth regarding what we think of Dan Heng Imbibitor. As for my personal opinion on the matter, I do think he is incredibly strong. However, I do think it may be a bit too early to determine it as power creep, since we are in 1.3 and most limited characters that have come out so far have been incredibly powerful and also have incredible potential to become even stronger in the future. On the flip side though, one of the main issues can be how DPS characters continue from this point on, as the bar now for DPS potential is incredibly high with Dan Heng Imbibitor, where new DPS characters will have to be as strong as him, or if they're weaker, this can result in players being unsure about pulling the new character if the damage ceiling isn't as high as his. Many have expressed concern as to how future characters will be strength-wise, and if the bar will continuously rise, or if the strength of the characters coming will be around the same, if not lower strength, which is definitely a valid concern for most to have, as many players are free-to-play, who wish to pull for characters that can help them in clearing content, as well as characters who are able to provide immense value for their accounts. An example of this can be, let's say you are a free-to-play player, and you pull for a character. Let's call this character the letter A. You pull for the letter A, and then another character called the letter B comes out. The letter B is just so much better than the letter A. You may feel a bit of regret as a result, especially if this character came out very near to the letter A character. Of course though, design and personality of characters should be a huge factor when it comes to pulling characters. For example, for me personally, if Topaz is for whatever reason the lowest damaging DPS character to release ever, I will still pull her due to it being Topaz and her having such an adorable trotter. Alongside design, another thing to consider is character kits and utility, as this will be a huge factor to consider when future characters are released, as the uniqueness and synergies of new characters with our prior or future characters. This will matter quite a lot when determining the value and worth of a future character as well. Regarding power creep though, let's say the content becomes far more challenging, and let's just say MOC, since that is our current endgame, and possible future endgame modes. And the prior DPS characters, which can be the standard characters or even the earlier limited characters, let's say they're not able to clear the content anymore, and all the newly released DPS characters can, then power creep can definitely become prevalent as a result in Honkai Star Rail. I do believe currently that the game is though in a good state regarding this, due to most of our 5-star characters, if not all, being able to clear content and bring value to accounts. But let's say in the case of power creep, it does become a thing within Honkai Star Rail. I did think of a few ways to alleviate this or possibly make power creep not fully existent within the game with a few solutions. I did mention this in the podcast, but support characters being more prevalent on 5-star banners, whether it's a 5-star or a 4-star, can be great. Since most of these banners offer a lot for free-to-play and spenders alike, they can help a lot with sustainability within our current endgame modes. Bushwin and Lynx will be amazing characters from the looks of it for all players to have to assist with clearing the harder modes in the game, which support characters in most games usually have quite a longevity when it comes to helping clear content within the game. Lynx is able to have a team-wide cleanse, team-wide healing, also increased taunt on preservation and destruction class characters. Bushwin is able to increase the crit with her skill kit. She's also able to increase maximum HP with her skill kit, and so on. She has a lot of usability and sustain as well from the looks of it. Another thing though that can help is new relics or characters that can help prior characters. For example, let's say there's a new relic set that can boost follow-up damage or a character that can do so. I have mentioned this in a prior video before, probably about a month ago, but this can be a buff to Blade's follow-up attacks, Himiko's, Jingyuin's, Clara, Herta, and even more, and so on. As a result, there will be ways to improve prior DPS characters if this were to happen. Characters like Blade and Kafka will also get better in the future as time goes on. Blade will be able to benefit from a character like Lynx due to her abilities to put increased taunt onto allies, which will allow Blade to follow up attack more and as a result dish out more damage at a faster rate. Kafka will benefit from most, if not all, potential damage over time characters, as she's a character who will be able to synergize with other characters who inflict damage over time, which can suggest that these characters can feel a bit future-proof in a sense. As for another suggestion, it can be MOC rotations regarding the buffs received for our characters. Hypothetically, if the MOC revolves around boosting follow-up damage once again, this can help with Clara, Jingyuin, and the prior examples given. If MOC boosts damage over time damage, then Kafka and characters like Sampo, Luca, and so on can benefit from this. As a result, most of our currently released DPS characters or even sub-DPS characters have potential to become even stronger in the future or will perform very well depending on what we receive in the future relic-wise, character-wise, and so on. So in a sense, there can always be a way for these characters to remain relevant. Of course, this is future thinking, but I do think they're pretty nice solutions. I'd love to know if power creep becomes a huge thing in Honkai Star Rail, and it's very agreeable that we all think it's power creep, or our future DPS characters are far stronger than our current ones. What solutions do you think would help our prior characters? I'd love to know. Now for the question, does Dan Heng Imbibitor begin power creep, and is Honkai Star Rail in a bad state? Personally, I'd say no, as currently our prior DPS characters released before Daniel are still super strong and are able to clear MOC with proper builds, supports, and so on. I feel like it'll honestly be fine, and by clearing MOC, I am referring to, you're able to 3-star it, even if it does take 20 turns or less. Like, let's say it takes 20 or 10, as long as you're 3-starring it, and as long as you get your Stellar Jades, in my opinion, that is definitely what matters, even if the pulls are used immediately or kept in your little Stellar Jade piggy bank. I'd love to know what you guys think though in the comments down below regarding this topic, as I think it's a really good topic for us to discuss as a community. I do know this is not my usual type of discussion for content, but let me know if you guys want my thoughts more on things in the game that the community is discussing. If you guys did enjoy, consider subscribing, leaving a like to support the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day. Peace.